Good morning, everyone. So, a raise of hands, how many was at Internex in Amsterdam last year in October? Quite a few. Okay. So back then, I was here with my colleague Simon talking about how we built the value case for doing a planning transformation at Pandora, which eventually led to us choosing O9 as the partner to help do that transformation. Today, I will tell you a bit about the next phases of that journey, how we approached blueprinting, how we approached the implementation and configuration of the solution. And just after summer, we actually go live with the first parts of the O9 solution. So we're not live yet, but I'll tell you about all the steps going up into it. And I hope that some of what we did, and I picked the things that I see as some of the most valuable learnings, can be of value to you. And after the session, and later today, you're welcome to catch me or some from my great team that are here with me today, sitting over here. And what I do is merely presenting the great work that they have been doing. Before I step into it, I want to tell you a bit about what Pandora is. And I will actually start with showing you a little video that shows how we try and enable all our fans and all our consumers to express love with jewelry. So let's go and see if the video works.
Be the one thing
that can change everything.
The one thing that can change everything. Be bold.
Be authentic. Be brilliant.
Be brilliant. Be the unexpected.
The beauty.
The beauty.
The beauty. Be an open heart.
An open heart.
A first step.
A comfort.
A force.
Be true.
Be nurturing.
Be open-minded.
Be understanding.
Be connected to what matters.
Be selfless. Be limitless.
Be the laughter.
The laughter.
The laughter.
In a world where you can be anything.
Be love.
Be love.
Be love.
Be love.
My love is your love.
Pandora.
So it's all in its simplicity. What we want to be able to do and make all our consumers across the world be able to do is to give a voice to their loves. That's what we do with our jewelry, where we have the strategy of becoming a full jewelry house. We were kind of born out of bracelets and charms that already in itself have a lot of symbolism for expression. And now we expand to what we call a full jewelry house with all the type of assortment that you might need or want to have within your jewelry. So we become the destination of jewelry across the world. A bit of facts around us as a company. We have now passed the 4 billion euro mark in revenue. We are selling more than 110 million pieces of jewelry every year, which in units makes us the world's largest jewelry brand. We craft all of that ourselves in hand, and we sell it, the vast majority, through our own network. That means, in total, that we actually produce and sell 3 pieces of jewelry every second. So it's becoming a fairly big jewelry company and machine by now. To do that, we have 37,000 employees, a lot of them being in our many stores across the world, but also a lot being in our facilities in Thailand, where we do all the crafting of our jewelry. More than 12,000 do our jewelry out there. We reached last year a milestone we are quite proud of, meaning that we use 100% recycled silver and gold in all our products. We also have great ambitions when it comes to sustainability targets, becoming net zero in terms of CO2 emission in 2040, and working a lot on diversity inclusion, including getting complete parity with women in leadership, where we are now on 35%. In 2030, we will be complete parity, 50%. That is both because it's right to do, but also we see how much value and diversity and capability it drives by doing that. We have almost 7,000 point of sales in more than 100 countries. We have close to 1 billion of customer visits in stores, both physically and online every year. So that's a few facts about us as a company. Then a bit about our strategy. So with a purpose in the center that I started with, we give a voice to our people's loves. We have a growth strategy where the pink circle you see around is essentially the elements that we are really focused on doing to drive this growth. We are super focused on building a strong global brand. We are very focused on making a design that fulfills this full jewelry house mission that we are on. So we are not only focusing on the charms and the bracelets, but making sure that we create an assortment that really covers the full needs when it comes to jewelry. We are also focused on growing our core markets, both our already big markets like US, that is close to 40% of our size of the business now, but there's still much more potential. We are also focused on expanding into new markets that are super small for us today, but is big in terms of jewelry market cap-wise. That could be countries like Korea, India, Japan, and so forth. And then lastly, but quite importantly, we are focusing a lot on making what we call personalization, so make our jewelry possible to really do super personalized for each of our consumers. One of the very tangible examples of that is doing engraving on jewelry that we do more and more. We have it more and more available in our stores. We can do it online now as well. The latest add-on is that besides that you can engrave text on jewelry that you can personalize, you can now also engrave with pictures. So you can engrave pictures of your loved ones, your kids, your wife, your husband, your family, your friends, whatever you would like to actually do to express your stories and your loves on the jewelry. That we are super excited about, and it's really gaining good traction. To do all of that, which is storytelling-wise, the fantastic things, then there's a very important foundational element to enable all of that. That's what I'm here to talk about today. What we actually do when it comes to planning transformation, among one example, to create the foundation to succeed with all of this. Some of the foundational things are actually doing this full value chain that we have with excellence. Planning plays a big role in this. Utilizing the scale we have, as mentioned before, we are the largest manufacturer of jewelry in the world. We are also now the largest distributor of jewelry. So how do we gain the value from that scale? That's a big piece of the foundational element. There's the sustainability journey that I mentioned, the full digitalization. Not only do we implement a new technology for planning, we do a full SAP S4 ERP journey as well. We boost tech in all aspects of retail, online, offline, and whatnot. So digitalization is everywhere, also in our value chain. And then lastly, but most importantly, the whole people aspect. A lot of what we do is not possible without strong people, strong talents, and all these things. And as we want to be kind of front runner on many of those things, we need the best people to actually help us do this. And around it is all our values. We care, we dream, we deliver, we dare, which really is something that I worked in a few different industries. I think we are actually quite good at embodying these values. And I'm personally, as a leader in the company, super proud of that. It makes a long way. So with that, my last introduction slides before deeping into the actual transformation is a bit about our operating model, which is quite important to understand in the context of our transformation. Because what's unique about Pandora is that we are a fully vertically integrated model. Not only do we have 80% plus of all our sales in our own stores, then we have some distributors and franchisees as well, but 80% or so of our revenue is through our own network, own stores, own e-com. We also, as mentioned, have the full crafting in-house. That means that we can do our production fairly fast with short lead times. We can quickly react to signals and become super responsive to the consumer needs. It's in our own control. Are we perfect at utilizing that today and the best at it? No, but we have the potential, and this is where the transformation comes in. With that, I'm shifting from introduction of the company to actually deep diving into the transformation we do on planning. So this is our marketing campaign, you can say, around the whole planning transformation, named Hero. Credit goes to Rifam, who's here today, who actually came up with a nice word that's not only sound cool, but there's a meaning behind it. Hero stands for harmonize, elevate, respond, and optimize. Harmonize is actually, that's the point around getting on one platform, in this case on 9, to actually help us do the planning across this integrated value chain instead of 4 different solutions that we have today. Elevate is about doing things better. So it's not only a system thing, it's also a process improvement. So elevate the way we actually do planning. It's the element about being able to respond faster to opportunities in the market, to products that sell better than expected. How can you chase into that? Products that did the opposite. How can you make sure that you quickly then react so you don't create excess inventory situations? And then finally optimize, making sure that we don't only optimize for one KPI, but we actually optimize for multiple. So it's a full kind of P&L optimization journey and opportunity thing that we hunt for here. This is then giving an overview of our full roadmap of the transformation. On top, you see where we come from, different solutions when it comes to forecasting and location replenishment on store level, DC inventory and supply planning, capacity, master production planning, and raw material planning. All of these elements is in scope of the transformation that we do. And after a careful and extensive RFP and selection process, we back in 2023 chose Online as our partner in success to actually do this. And we are now in the phase one, as we are building and configuring the whole solution, starting with forecasting and location replenishment. We go live with the first markets here in July, end of July. Then we roll out all markets throughout the rest of the year. And then end of the year, we in one go live with the last 3 elements that you see up here. So all supply, capacity, and then raw material planning. We go live with early 26, technically live late 25. So next year, I can come back and tell you much more about, so how did that go? Did we then actually, did all go on plan? Did we have all the value realization that came out of it? What I want to entertain with today, and hopefully can share of some interesting value for you, is what did we actually do in the whole blueprinting phase and the whole build configuration phase, and what are some of the things that can be hopefully of good learnings to you. So without further ado, let's jump into that part. I have tried and summarized it into 3 headlines, so to speak. The first one being, it's about value. So we have been quite relentless from the beginning and throughout the whole blueprint and build, configuration, implementation, preparation phase to always focus on the value realization we could get out of it. One of the first things were that we invested quite a lot of time and quality into the blueprint, with the notion of well prepared is half done. When I talk to many others, I realized that we're actually spending a lot more time to actually be in that phase before we jump to build and configuration. But our strategy, our line of thinking, were that we really need to make sure that we don't jump too fast into building and configuring something that we find out later on is a super nice functionality and it looks cool and whatnot, but if it's not tied to the value we actually need, then it's in vain. So we asked ourselves the questions many times, what value will this bring, when we were actually sitting in the blueprint conversation, and sometimes also resisted the temptation to go down that road and park it and do it later. We also created a framework where we defined KPIs, early states, and the targets of those KPIs to really have that value realization framework, and tied all of those back into all the design decisions and all the blueprint decisions about, so what will this do? What kind of value will this actually bring? And that helped us also to make sure that we could be clear on what we then call the KDDs, the key design decisions, that either structurally is kind of really core for the solution and something that will be a disaster if you find out you have to redo, or that you say this is so important for the actually key value that you try to generate that it must be a key priority. And then you also find yourself having some design decisions that are less important, that can either wait for later releases, or you say, this we don't have to invest as much time in the blueprint to make sure that it's 100% right in the design from the get-go. So the first advice would be, it's about value. The second advice or learning would be, it's about essence. And what does that mean? So one of them would mean that resist the temptation to want to do too much to begin with. We were so much, you get carried away. You see with your great opening, Shakri, and with what we have learned so far, I think all of us would like that AI quickly and get to agentic and whatnot. So you easily get carried away with what technology can actually do. Make sure that you crawl, walk, run, in our case, crawl, walk, shine. Make sure that you rather do something simple that works, and you gain a lot of learnings with that. That's at least our approach. So we are just about there where we are not into it yet, but we hope that the choices we have made make sure that we can go live faster, and then we can get incremental learnings, we can iterate, we can use all of those insights into future releases and the added functionality that we then build up. So we applied this MVP approach, as we call it, a minimum viable product, to really do scope creep again and again in the blueprint to make sure that what you then start with is the minimum you need. It must, of course, be strong enough to make a difference and something that actually generates value, but challenge yourself to make sure that you do it fairly simple. And then make, afterwards, after the first go live, a phased release plan where all the things that you then put into the coming releases have that value realization mindset. So what is it then important that you slot in? And again, maybe you then want to do it in a different sequence that if you look at it from a pure technology angle, what could make logically sense? But we have chosen that value realization approach to it. And the last advice within the essential focus is try and stick to the reference model as much as possible. It doesn't mean that you can't do a tailored configuration outside, but when you do, make sure that it's absolutely a key need for your value chain. Because most likely, you will spend quite a bit more time, both on your own end, with own with system implementers, and it might be more difficult to actually service afterwards. So make sure that when you do it, you really need it. The last advice, and the most important probably, is it's about people. So remember that any big advanced planning implementation or transformation is not a system implementation. It's a full-on business transformation with people and process as critical as the systems. And you can easily forget that. I found myself many times being so drawn into the technicality of what the systems can do that you end up risking down prioritizing, but what is it that you equally need to do on an organization, on a people, on a skill set, on a process point of view to make sure that you actually set for success in this transformation. Then also make sure that you as a company, you are in the lead, it's your responsibility. Your software and your implementation partners are your partners in success, and they often know a lot more about these things than you do yourself, but don't tempt that you can put the responsibility to a business advisor or system implementer. Make sure that you both on a leadership level and on an organization level with all your SMEs and so on have the capability to take the lead on this. In our case, we took that approach from the very beginning, and then we supplemented with support where we saw need. We chose ACL, who's here today, as well as our system implementer, to actually help configure and build the online solution together with online people and our own organization. And we chose business advisors down the road. In this case, we also work with the FESO, who's here today, to help do the KDD work and also get us started on the change management journey. So how do you do change management? How do you build your approach to training and communication and so on, which is honestly, something you can so easily forget. You're so swarmed in time and actually doing the tech, the process part of things, that you often get too late to the game of, so how do we anchor this? How do we change? How do we train our organization on it? How do we make sure it sticks? It's get adapted. It actually, and because that's back to the whole value generation. Without that, you won't get the value. Then we did something that I think we actually did quite good. I'm quite proud of that piece, is to create strong center of excellence functions within our organization, both in business and in tech. We have within the supply chain organization a center of excellence. We have within our merchandising organization a center of excellence, and within our tech organization. And they are the ones that are the deepest into the online solution from our organization. They are the SMEs of the solution, both in the build and the implementation, but also long lasting. So when we are live, they will be the one owning it. So there's a seamless shift from the actual build and implementation of kind of the big first go lives, and then how we continuously will then add functionality, improve, and so forth. So you don't have that gap where you risk that you suddenly lose responsibility, or who will actually run this and own this after the first go lives. And on that element, master the waterfall meets agile. We have a product line set up running all our current legacy systems in terms of new solutions needed and so forth, and that we will shift it over to kind of from a waterfall project set up doing the initial go lives, and then seamlessly shift it over into the agile way of working. So we then have quarterly runs where we will do smaller add-ons and tweaks, all based on that value lens that I mentioned earlier. So with that, and in all its simplicity, I think the three things that I wanted to share as good value for us, good learnings that I hope can be of use for you, is be value-focused, focus on the essentials, and focus on people. Focus on your organization, make sure that it's set up both for the transformation and for the aftermath of it, so you get all of that value out of it. That was my words to you today. If you have any questions, then find me or find someone from my team during today, tonight. We are here all the way through, so happy to engage into any conversation. That's it. Thank you.